this is knowledge that so many women don't have, and
Mhm.
they want it. We want to know more about how our body works and how these things that we're just like willy-nilly prescribed affect us.
Mhm.
And I was like, I just have to do this. I have to get this information out into the world, into whatever way that is.
Hey mama, welcome to Naturally Empowered Living, your safe space to guiding you on your unapologetic self-awakening journey to learning your energy of alignment and feeling good again. This is your weekly sanctuary to wake up from autopilot and transform the way you approach motherhood and life through the power of meditation, energetics, and root cause therapy. It's my mission to help you embody the foundations of self-love, trust, and inner connection to be unapologetic in the evolution of who you are. Here, we honor all parts of ourselves, the messy and the magic, the shadows and the light. If you are ready to get to the roots of cultivating real change, warm up that cold coffee, pop in your earbuds, and tighten that top knot, mama. Let's discover our power within together. Hello, beautiful mamas, and welcome to A Naturally Empowered Living, formerly the Balanced Mom Method podcast. I am your host and guide towards being unapologetically yourself, Jenna Smith. And today I'm thrilled to introduce a special guest who is on a mission to transform women's health and wellness, Vanda Aubrey. She is a nurse with a decade of experience. She is a trained functional medicine practitioner and specializes in addressing hormone and mineral imbalances to help women reclaim their energy, improve their moods, to feel their best. Hell yes. Hell yes. And through her expertise, she has empowered just dozens of women to prioritize their health, learn about their bodies, without following strict diets or giving up foods that they love, to be able to bring it within their life. So I'm so excited to dive in on this fascinating world. I can't wait to learn about hormones, minerals, just with tips to boost energy and feel our best. So welcome, Vanda. I would love for you to just take over and share with us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jenna. I'm excited to be here today and chat with you guys because, minerals and hormones and mama's energy all go hand in hand. And it's something that across the board, I see women struggling with, whether they are new to motherhood, they've been a mom for a while, they may even be in that like preconception stage. It kind of affects all of us. And unfortunately, it seems like we get dismissed when we bring up these concerns. Like, I just don't feel like myself. My energy doesn't seem to be what it used to. We kind of get dismissed, especially ones that are moms and might have multiple kids. People just blow it off. They're like, well, you're so busy and you have so many kids, you have so many things on your plate. And while all of that is definitely true, and it does play a factor, I don't want to dismiss that, but there are other things that play, like our hormones and our minerals, that are impacting that energy that we can actually do interventions and things about to help us feel better and feel more energized.
Mm-hmm. That I have so many different avenues that I could take because I mean, after having children with nursing versus, and everything that I was consuming, I'm like, there's just sucking the life out of me. Like that was something I remember
Yep.
saying all the time. But then even going like before children, I was on birth control for over a decade,
Yep.
a
Same.
long time. And I remember when I came off of birth control, I I went crazy. Like everything was just so out of whack. And then I remember we got pregnant. I came off birth control and it just like happened. And we were very fortunate with that. But I was a mess. So talk to me about this. Like talk to me because we mentioned a
Yeah.
little before with birth control and minerals and how kind of that impacts.
So one of the big things that impact a lot of us, like you said, we're as a generation, as a like women as a whole, I feel like we get started on birth control earlier and earlier all the time because it's just an easy fix.
Hmm.
If a teenager, for one, I totally understand from a parental perspective, like you want to keep your kids from getting pregnant when they're a teenager and you can't control what they're doing. And that's like a whole different subject. But there might be other reasons to get on birth control too. Like maybe the person is having extremely bad periods and it's affecting whether they can go to school or it's affecting them at school. I know I was personally started on birth control at the age of 17. And at the time, the reasoning that I went on it was for irregular periods. And
Hmm.
like knowing what I know now, that seems like such a joke because it
Mhm.
actually takes a woman's body at least a year to establish a good connection between our ovaries and our brain to communicate and sync those cycles and really like get to a point that you can be regular. Well,
Mhm.
I had just started my period when I was like after I had turned 16. So it really hadn't even been time yet. And the doctors don't have these conversations with either parents or women that are choosing to go on birth control on their own to give some of these warnings or just educational pieces that might really impact that decision to go on birth control. And or sometimes I feel like I come off like I'm like totally against birth control. And although I personally don't take birth control anymore, and I probably never will again, I
Mhm.
know that it's still a right choice for some people. I'm just really passionate about them making an informed decision when they choose to be on birth control. And it really irritates me that some of these conversations between doctor and patient don't happen.
Mhm.
Um, One of the big things with birth control that people like their minds are just blown when they learn this. And it was the same for me because no one ever told me this. But when you're on birth control, that birth control is actually depleting your body of certain minerals and nutrients. So
Mhm.
you have to be really intentional with both your diet and supplements to keep up with that. And that's kind of like one of the big reasons that when women come off birth control, they sometimes feel so bad. And,
Mhm.
you know, as a young 16, 17-year-old girl, I mean, my diet was not optimal for sure. I
No.
probably wasn't taking any supplements. And if I was, they definitely were not of good quality.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's along with that, a lot of women also don't understand how the birth control that they're on works. And they all kind of work in a little different ways. And it's different from the pill versus an IUD. Even different types of pills work in different ways. But like one of the primary ways that birth control actually works is that it stops the communication between your ovaries and your brain. So you are not ovulating. And that quote period that we have every month when we're on birth control, or some of them don't, but the ones that do, that's actually not a period at all. It's just a withdrawal bleed from the medications that are in the birth control. And like even that most basic piece of education about birth control is not taught. It's
You
just
just
not,
told, I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's crazy.
it's crazy.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, speaking like to our generation, right?
Mhm.
Because probably a lot of moms, people listening to this episode might be in our situation that were on it in the past. They might be on it now. But speaking kind of like past to future now, going through pregnancies, possibly nursing, maybe not, but just with the mineral depletions and kind of how our bodies, where are we at now? Like, how can we help? How can we kind of replenish and the lifestyle kind of things?
Yeah. It's most of the time, I'm all about like diet and nutrition first,
Mhm.
but typically it's not enough. And there's a lot of different reasons for that that aren't even all our fault. Like our land here has been farmed for so many years that like the same tomato that we're eating today doesn't have the same mineral content that it did, 60, 70 years ago when our grandparents were eating them. Like it's
Yeah.
just, and we can't control that. So there is a combination needed there of like having a healthy diet, getting plenty of fruits and vegetables. That's where we get a lot of our minerals from. We get it from quality meats and things as well. But then also knowing how to do smart supplementation in combination with that so that we can fill the gaps that our diet and lifestyle are not meeting.
Mhm.
And there's like some basic things like I haven't met anyone yet in the world that doesn't need some mineral support. And I think that minerals are being more talked about in the past like year and a half. There's a big like mineral mocktail movement on the internet, on Instagram, and different places. And that's definitely something that I recommend. I like that it's really versatile. Like you can either make them yourself at home or you can buy them in like powdered drink mixes,
Mm-hmm.
which that personally seems to work the best for me. It's just a time saver with kids and just like all the things you have to do. I like that it's already ready for me. I know what amount of potassium and sodium and different things are in there, and I can just pop it in my water and go on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely like one of the places that I recommend people to start. And what's great about it is that typically women see a kind of like a win from that pretty quickly, because we are so depleted. Like you said, a lot of women's stories are, I was on birth control for several years. I came off birth control. I got pregnant. And then a lot of women choose to breastfeed. When we're just during pregnancy, women can lose about 10% of their minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you continue to breastfeed, that loss continues while you're breastfeeding because you're still like giving a lot of your nutrition to the baby. So we get in this cycle because then, if you're like myself, I'm in my third back-to-back pregnancy breastfeeding cycle. And it's like, even though I'm diligent now about my minerals and getting plenty of fruits and vegetables, my testing shows that I'm still behind, that I still need like more minerals. Now, thankfully, since I've been more intentional with it after my first pregnancy, symptom wise, I can notice a big change in my energy and feel a lot better. It may not show up on my testing results yet, but that's pretty common. And we, as a practitioner, I always try to focus more on like, well, how do you feel? What do you notice as opposed to what do the numbers say? Because at the end of the day, testing's great, but it is just a number.
Sure. So before I had just had to write down, I didn't want to forget. I want to ask you what brands, because you could go on Walmart, on Amazon, like what are like your top recommended brands for trace minerals, or I don't even want to, is that okay? Like, is that?
Yeah, no, you're fine. Trace Minerals, actually, that is a brand. They have a liquid that I really like that you can put into literally anything. Like you can put it in coffee, water, other drinks like orange juice or something. The dose that they have on the bottle is like, I can't remember if it's a half a teaspoon or a full teaspoon, but if you do the full thing, it kind of has a taste to it that's like metallic-y or something. I use that all throughout the day. So like anything I'm drinking, I drop about 10 to 15 drops in there and go on. And you don't taste it. You don't know that it's in there. So that's a really great option. And it's pretty cost effective. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I have. I do have that. Okay. And I put it in my drink every morning. So, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, keep going.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
I get that one. You can order it different places, but I order that one through Jigsaw Health, which is one of my favorite mineral drink mix companies. They have two different options. They have Electrolyte Supreme, which has a combination of a lot of different vitamins and minerals in it. And then they have a pickleball option, which is really concentrated on potassium. It's hard to get enough potassium in our diet, so supplementing potassium is really important. And there's I'm trying not to go like too far into the weeds, but a lot of women struggle with their thyroid function, and potassium is needed for good thyroid function. So it's kind of like it helps us in 2 or 3 different ways there. What other brands? I really like Limit, LMNT. You've probably seen like ads for that one because it's super popular. The only thing with that one is if anyone has any reason at all that they have to like restrict their sodium, it's very high in sodium, which is great. We need sodium, but it's like just something to be conscious of. And then I really like the brand Cure. They have a lot of different flavors, and some people get bored with like, I'm drinking the same thing. It tastes the same all the time. I like variety myself, and they have a lot of good different flavors. So that would probably be like my top 3.
Sure. And I don't want to share too much of like my story, but I reached out to you on Instagram, saying like, I want to do one of your tests. And I do want you to share a little bit about like what you offer also. But I guess like just to share kind of an example with me, what happened. I don't, again, want to go too deep, but when I was nursing both of my children, so my son, at about 7-8 months postpartum, so I was still nursing him. I didn't have my cycle back yet. I would get like flu-like symptoms every month on the dot. And I'm like, is my cycle coming back? And
Hmm.
it wouldn't. I reached out to my doctor, like it was bad. Like I hit a wall. I couldn't function. I couldn't move. And I went to the doctor and I believe she put me on vitamin D. They did check my thyroid, but she put me on vitamin D and magnesium, I think. Because I still take those two now. And then with my second, same thing happened, but it wasn't as extreme as with Jace. Like with Jace, it was, I'm like, Jameson, my husband, I'm like, I can't function. Like it
Yeah.
was horrible. So I guess like the discernment of my question to you is the discernment of, okay, I don't have a lot of energy. I have flu-like symptoms. Am I getting sick or is this chronic? Is it like kind of the rabbit hole that we go down? Like kind of
Yeah.
where to start?
Well, and honestly, I mean, there's going to be times where it's both, like, where you are like sick plus you're just drained.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, the way that you can kind of determine those or like differentiate between the two is really going to be like in how long they last and to what degree it is. Like if it's something that seems like it starts kind of out of nowhere and it's pretty extreme, that would make me lean more towards this is an illness or there's something that has suddenly like started to go on with your thyroid, because that can happen, especially post pregnancy, because there's so many hormone changes post pregnancy. Plus, you throw breastfeeding in there, which impacts our hormones. So, hypothyroidism in women is really common post pregnancy.
Hmm.
And then, if you're like, no, it seems like it's kind of getting on top of me over time. Like, I just feel like worse and worse over time. That is more when we lean towards, it's probably depleted minerals and vitamins. We want to start out. I always tell people, like, you want to make sure that you have your foundations in place first. Like, make sure that you're eating enough,
Hmm.
especially like when you have a newborn. That's really hard sometimes because you're just, you're all over the place. You're not sleeping, whatever.
Hmm.
Sleep is important. And I always tell moms that like not to stress about that because sometimes it's not possible. If you have babies or toddlers that are still waking up in the middle of the night, for me to just say to you, like, you need to get 8 hours of sleep at night, period, end of story. Well, that's not helpful to you.
Sure.
It's not,
Hmm.
so like, do you have strategies around how you can get better, more restful sleep? Do you have a partner that you can tag in that maybe even if it's just on the weekends, you're getting uninterrupted sleep,
Hmm.
or more of it anyway? And once you get those like foundations in place and you've had them in place for, I usually tell people like, give it 6 weeks and see how you feel. If you're not feeling any better or much better, then we probably need to test
Hmm.
and see which minerals exactly we need to be focused on, because there's so many different minerals and our body can't make its own minerals. Our body can make some of its own vitamins, but it cannot make its own minerals. So we have to get them through our diet and supplements.
Hmm.
And once you have like a really customized picture of what your unique body needs, you can see differences and changes and improvements a lot faster.
Sure. Tell me about what you offer because I think I want to do it. Just because
I recommend it for everybody. And I mean, I know that probably sounds like, oh, that's a great selling point. She wants to sell this to everybody, but it's when I learned about this test was in 2022,
Mhm.
end of 21. I started like doing training on it and stuff. And I was just mind blown by all the things that you can learn. So the test itself is called an HTMA test, a hair tissue mineral analysis. And it's actually really simple to do. You do it on yourself at home. You clip a sample from your hair and then you mail it out to the lab just in your mailbox. And what you're sending them is the root. So like the hair that's closest to your head, and they analyze that. And when the results come to me, there's over 38 different like data points that we can see. So we can see several different minerals just like individually, like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, copper, iron, all these different things. Then we also get a look at any heavy metals that you might have built up in your body, because that can also interfere with like how our body functions, and is
Mhm.
good to know if we need to try to detox some of those things. Then there's this section of the test that's like the ratio section, and we get a lot of information there because it gives us insight into how different body systems are functioning. So we get a look at metabolism, thyroid function, female sex hormones, blood sugar balance, and adrenals. So like that adrenal fatigue or burnout, sometimes that it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I take it and I look at it, and we look at the minerals as an individual. We look at the ratios, and I make a really customized plan for like, here's what I would do in regards to your diet and your lifestyle. Here's what I would recommend supplement wise for the next like 3 months. And then if there's any like detox work that needs to be done, we talk about that as well. Like I said in the beginning, like women get kind of dismissed with a lot of the symptoms that they have. But you can look at this HTMA test and connect the dots from like, I'm having this symptom and this is why.
Mm-hmm.
This is where that connection is. And I love that because the testing is oftentimes so validating for women to be able to go like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason that I feel this way or that I am reacting this way in certain situations.
Well, of course. And I mean, you said this just postpartum with eating, and you said, like, you want to always start there, because I know that a lot of time we're just eating scraps from the food that our children aren't, finishing, because you don't want to waste it. And then we're not eating a full meal ourselves. So it's very much intentionality also that I stepped back when I had my second to really figure out, okay, where am I, like, what am I doing within life when I know the answers that I should be doing. So what am I actually doing? And it wasn't enough sleep, but neither one of my children slept. So like, some of those things with the control, like what you were saying, you can't control it, but I could control what I was consuming. I could control my water intake. I could control. And yeah, so that's very, very fascinating. And that's awesome that you create that customized plan for everyone. I mean, based on what they currently are doing, what their results show, and that next step. That's amazing. So where can we find you?
So I hang out the most over on Instagram. You can find me at Wellness with Vanda. My website is the same. I do have a podcast. It's the same. It's Wellness with Vanda, the podcast. And I have on my Instagram, it's linked. I have a guide for people to get started with minerals that are kind of like those blanket recommendations. If you're like, I've never really heard of minerals before, I don't know where to get started. That's where I would direct anybody to, because it kind of breaks down like which minerals are most important, some of my favorite brands of different minerals, how to make your own. I have a couple of recipes that I really like that I've made here at home myself. That's where I would start for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. I will link all that in the show notes too. And this is a complete impromptu question. So I ask all of my guests on the show, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's a question that it's so open-ended, and I just love to hear, I mean, what you have to say. So what are moments within your life, you could bring in career, personal, wherever your mind goes, what are moments in your life where you just knew, like you were on your right path, like you were in, I use the term, your energy of alignment, because the discernment of, going off path or making a wrong decision, then you're like, oh gosh, I knew that this was it, but I didn't take that route, or like, you know what I mean? So how those moments where you just knew, like what were you feeling? What were the sensations? Are you on a natural high? Kind of just talk to me a little bit about those moments.
Yeah, I love this question, and I could take it like so many different directions. I've been doing a lot of work on my business lately with like the different offers and trying to tweak things and make sure that it really fits like what a busy mom would need. And I think for me in the beginning, when I thought like, I'm going to start a business, like I'm going to make this something. I had come off of like my own birth control journey where I like lost my period for 9 months, and my OB's recommendation was just go back on birth control. And like I'd been down this whole rabbit hole where I like found functional medicine and learned about it. And Dr. Jolene Brighton was one of the first people that I like really got into that's in the functional medicine space. And she talks about post-birth control symptoms or syndrome. And I'm a nurse, and at the time I was working like on a traditional take care of patients in the hospital type of unit. and I worked with all women, and we were all around the same age. And I just started like kind of openly sharing more about what I was experiencing. And it was before I got married. So it's like leading up to our wedding. So everybody's asking like, well, are you guys going to have kids right away? Are you, like, what's your plans? And it just kind of naturally kept coming up in conversation that I was doing all of this work trying to get my hormones balanced and get my period back. And the more that I shared, the more women would be like, I had that same experience, or I'm still going through that, or gosh, that terrifies me to go off birth control. What can you teach me? Like, how can I do it better than just stopping cold turkey? Because that's what I did, and that's not what I would recommend at all.
Same.
But, and I think like through those conversations, I just really realized like, wow, this is knowledge that so many women don't have, and they want it. We want to know more about how our body works and how these things that we're just like willy-nilly prescribed affect us. And I was like, I just have to do this. I have to get this information out into the world, into whatever way that is. And it's looked like a few different things as my business has grown, and I tweak offers and I do different things. And I think that's like always going to be the case as somebody that's an entrepreneur, but I just always feel like validated and like I am doing the right work and doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I talk with women and I can teach them something and they're like, wow, I never knew that before. That is like mind blowing. Why didn't somebody teach me this 20 years ago?
So beautiful. Gosh, I'm like getting teary eyed and just, I just love hearing. I mean, it's in a sense sharing more of your story and just getting to know you better, but I just love hearing stories like that. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for everything, for your knowledge. Yeah. Thank you so much just for sharing. I mean, it is something you just said it with, we want to know, we don't know, but we want to, I mean, because it's our bodies. And a lot of times that, I mean, we're just too busy or whatever it is, or we're told one thing, but it's so surface level that we feel like it's shunned and it's not heard or well received. So thank you for the work that you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. Oh, did you give that?
Yeah, I did.
We're on video right now and we just got these thumbs up on Zoom. But thank you so much again for being here with us today. I will link everything in the show notes that you discussed. And for my mamas listening, thank you so much for being here with us. And until next week, as always, simply be you. You have everything inside of you to learn your energy of alignment and be unapologetic in who you are. We're sending our love and light.
Did you find this episode relatable or empowering? Peace with my love of you.
Thank you for spending this sacred time with me on Naturally Empowered Living. I pray this episode has brought you a step closer to tuning into your energy of alignment. And if it has, please consider leaving a written review sharing how this show has impacted you. Your feedback truly lights me up and helps other moms find their way to this community. And if it feels right, please share this episode with another mom who might be struggling to remind her that she's never alone. Be sure to check the show notes for more ways to connect and explore how we could work together to reclaim your power and deepen your relationship within. Thank you. I appreciate all you are and all you do.